live in interesting times. Today's stories. New Delhi is hit by a rare summer air pollution alert. Everest braces for its busiest year. In France, there is less and less tolerance for unruly e-scooter riders. Oil tankers are hit by sabotage attacks as Gulf tensions soar. President Trump expects G20 meeting with Xi to be very fruitful. In New York, the trial begins for a police officer in Eric Garner's case. Apple's most ambitious retail store is set for the U.S. Capitol. Curacao vows to stop measles spreading from a Scientology ship. Plus, the Republic of Palau hosts its largest U.S. military exercise in 3 decades. Hello everyone, I am Jennifer Polentan, bringing you stories from around the globe, and this is Eagle News, Washington, D.C. New Delhi suffered a rare summer air pollution alert Monday as dust storms and heat over northern India took smog to hazardous levels. The world's most polluted capital city is blanketed in toxic smog of car fumes, agricultural smoke, and factory waste most winters, but is less severe in summer months. On Monday, the Indian government's air quality index hit very poor, with PM 2.5 particles, the most harmful at 154 micrograms per cubic meter, 5 times the normal safe level. Clouds of dust swirled around the streets, and many people brought out masks, generally used in winter. V.K. Soni, an India Meteorological Department official, said, quote, "Right now we are in the thunderstorm season. High-speed winds are raising a lot of dust, but we think it is only transient and will change in a day or two when it rains." Pollution levels started rising the day after a top minister promised that Delhi's air would be clean in 3 years because of government action. Transport and Water Resources Minister Nitin Gadkari told an election campaign press conference last Thursday the government has done 100% corruption-free, transparent, time-bound, result-oriented, and quality work, and that is why Delhi will be free of air and water pollution in the next 3 years. Indian authorities have unsuccessfully tried to curb the pollution in recent years. According to the United Nations, India's cities made up 14 of the world's 15 most polluted cities in a UN survey released in 2018. Air pollution contributes to hundreds of thousands of premature deaths each year in India. The Delhi region has been described as a gas chamber by the state's incumbent chief minister, Arvind Kejriwal.
The pollution in Delhi affects me in various ways, like when I go out from my home and when I come to the roads, I have to take common cloth or mask on my face, so I cannot breathe without my mask, okay? So I feel the pollutant into when I breathe, okay? So it affects me on the various ways, like sometimes I got cough and my skin problems, you can see that is only because of the pollution here in Delhi. We should take care about the pollution, okay? And it is a very serious concern, seriously, so we should think seriously about this, and it is impacting our life each and every manner, so we should avoid everything which is creating pollutions, even our day-to-day life also. So it is not only air pollution, every kind of pollution, so we should also think about that if we want to see our planet flourishing and safe for our next upcoming generation.
For the 1970s it was less, and in 21st century it has become a big problem. It should be tackled, it should be solved, otherwise the entire humanity will be affected. As far as Delhi is concerned, it has risen, it has come to a very big problem.
The tented city at the foot of Mount Everest is bustling as mountaineers brace for potentially the busiest year yet on the world's highest peak, prompting concerns about overcrowding and safety. According to the authoritative Himalayan database, since Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay made the first ascent in 1953, more than 4,000 climbers have reached the top of Everest.
Recent years have seen especially rapid growth, with the mountain opening up to more people as competition between expedition organizers has caused costs to plummet. But rising numbers mean greater risk, a higher chance of bottlenecks as larger teams lumber their way to the summit, potential shortages of oxygen tanks, and increased risks of frostbite and even death. A photo of a huge traffic jam below the summit in 2012 prompted calls for better crowd management and even a cap on the number of permits issued annually. Nepal currently grants permits to all who apply and are willing to pay the $11,000 to scale the 8,848-meter or the 29,028-foot peak. According to the Tourism Department, this year the government has handed out 378 climbing permits. That tops the previous record of 373 in 2017. Most Everest aspirants will need the help of Nepali guides to reach the summit, meaning about 750 climbers will tread the same path to the top in the coming weeks when the weather is expected to be more favorable. And, according to expedition operators, at least 140 others are preparing to scale Everest using the northern route from Tibet, taking the potential total past the 2018 record of 807 when 5 people died. Spring is the busiest time of year on the mountain as the icy winds and bone-chilling temperatures are most forgiving than other times. Even so, the climbing season is short, with ascents expected to begin in the coming days and usually wrap up by the end of May or the first week of June. Ice doctors, the elite Sherpa mountaineers, who set the ropes to the summit for hundreds of paying clients to climb, are currently waiting for a favorable weather window to begin their ascent. But powerful jet streams raging around the top of Everest have expedition operators worried about the number of summit days, raising the likelihood of many climbers going up at the same time. Mountaineering blogger Alan Arnett said that problems could arise at the end of the season due to overcrowding when desperate climbers push onward to the summit despite a narrowing weather window. Arnett said, perhaps Nepal should put a limit like China has done, or the U.S. Park Service for Denali. He said he doubts Nepal will ever do this because there is too much money at stake and they seem unable to refuse business, regardless of the risks. Nepal has raked over $4 million in Everest permit fees alone in 2019, a much-needed source of revenue for the cash-strapped country. Expedition operator Dawa Stephen Sherpa of Asian Trekking conceded that while there are some concerns about overcrowding, mountaineering companies have become better at crowd management and are working together to schedule their teams. He said, quote, "It is also a little too early to talk about whether the weather will impact the summit days," unquote. Many of the climbers are now completing their acclimatization ascents. Among them is 49-year-old accomplished mountaineer, Kami Rita Sherpa, who is planning his 23rd ascent of the peak, breaking his own record for the most summits of Everest. This season, the Nepal route will also see more women than ever before, with 76 female climbers attempting the feat. American climber Corey Richards and Ecuadorian Esteban Topo Mena are attempting to establish a new route on Everest, a decade after South Korean team successfully ascended the mountain after carving a new path along the southwest face. Mena said in an Instagram post on Tuesday, "Their bodies and minds feel strong, and they're getting their spirits ready for the adventure of their lives. The duo will climb alpine style, without supplemental oxygen."
France's transport minister said they will ban electric scooters from pavements in September in a backlash against a surge of commuter gizmos invading pedestrian areas. An estimated 15,000 scooters, operated by several companies, have flooded the French capital since their introduction last year, a number projected to surge to 40,000 by the end of this year.
Elizabeth Bourne told the Le Parisien Daily in remarks published Saturday that anyone riding an e-scooter, monowheel, personal transporter or hoverboard on the pavement would be fined €135 or $151 from September. The minister said instead they will have to use the street or dedicated cycling paths so pedestrians are no longer squeezed against walls. Bourne said the development of the hugely popular transport vehicles happened very fast and in a bit of an archaic way. Riders will still be allowed to push them on the pavement so long as the engine is turned off. Scooter rental services from companies like US-based Lime & Bird and most recently ride-hailing giant Uber have proved wildly popular in many cities. The French move follows a decision by Peru to ban motorized scooters from pavements and pedestrian areas from this week. Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo had last month already announced measures to protect pedestrians from e-scooters, especially older people and children. She said parking in such a way as to obstruct traffic or pedestrians will mean a €35 fine, but the Paris City Council has pledged to build parking spots for 2,500 scooters. Berlin's City Hall has also drawn up tough new rules for e-scooters, while Spanish tourist hotspot Barcelona has banned scooter rental services completely.
Ah, ça peut me gêner, oui. Mais même en voiture, ça me gêne. Ça gêne tout le temps, en fait. Désolé.
Ils marchent comme des fous sur les trottoirs et les gens sont bousculés. Parce que là, les trottoirs sont faits pour les piétons, mais pas pour les bicyclettes et les motocycles et les petites voitures, les petites trottinettes.
Sur les trottoirs, il y en a partout. Les gens n'ont aucune civilité à laisser les trottinettes où il faut.
C'est vrai que nous, on travaille dans un quartier assez touristique, donc évidemment, on en voit énormément. Mais même pour eux, pour en avoir vu traverser des feux, c'est aucun respect du code de la route. Et même pour eux, c'est extrêmement dangereux, je trouve. Encore plus que les vélos. Ça va super vite en plus. Et je pense que ça pourrait être un peu plus encadré, effectivement.
Dans ma ville, il y a eu un décès il n'y a pas longtemps. Un homme de 80 et quelques années s'est fait renverser par une trottinette, il en est mort. Donc ils ne respectent pas le code de la route. Ils passent tout le temps quand le feu est rouge. Donc soit ils font passer un permis de conduire spécial trottinette, je ne sais pas, mais il faut qu'ils fassent attention.
Je peux vous dire, moi je suis assez permissive de caractère aussi. L'autre jour j'ai vu 3 ados qui étaient sur la même trottinette, qui avaient l'air de s'amuser comme des fous. Et d'une certaine manière, je les enviais.
A Consumer Report survey showed in February more than 1,500 people have been treated for injuries from using battery-powered electric scooters in the United States since the craze began in 2017.
هي 4 سفن اوريدي يعني الناس بدأت تعرف عنها وسفينتين سعوديات سفينة ترفع العلم الاماراتي وسفينة نرويجية. هي كلها ناقلة نفط. لان احنا في منطقه المختار 70% السفن اللي تتردد على المنطقه هذه منطقه تنكرز. هذه اللي صار احنا جانا بلاغ الاولي من السفن اللي تضررت هذا ورسلنا لانقاذ الارواح وانقاذ اذا في تلوث بحري. اما التحقيقات هذه جهات خاصه هي يعني باشرت من اول يوم وثاني يوم والتحقيقات جاريه بالنسبه لملابسات التخريب البحري. بس المينا ما بيتاثر بنوعيه الاعمال التخريبيه اللي هو نحن دائما نشوفه في كل مكان العالم. اليوم القوانين البحريه العالميه تنبذ هذه الاعمال.
Coming up, President Trump expects G20 meeting with Xi to be very fruitful. In New York, the trial begins for a police officer in Eric Garner's case. Apple's most ambitious retail store is set for the U.S. Capitol. Curacao vows to stop measles from spreading from a Scientology ship. Eagle News, Washington, D.C. will be right back. Stay with us.
Pep News, Linggo, alas 4 hanggang alas 5 ng hapon.
Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News, Washington, D.C. As the trade conflict with China escalates, President Donald Trump says of his expected encounter with China's Xi Jinping, quote, "We'll be meeting at the G20 in Japan, and that will be, I think, probably a very fruitful meeting," unquote.
Trump was speaking to reporters at the White House while meeting with Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán. The president also comments on the release of an American hostage in Burkina Faso, saying the French did a great job.
China has been taking advantage of the United States for many, many years. I'm not just talking about during the Obama administration. You can go back long before that. And it's been taking out $400, $500, $600 billion a year out of the United States. And we can't let that happen. We're in a very strong position. Our economy has been very powerful. Theirs has not been. We're dealing with them. We have a very good relationship. Maybe something will happen. We're going to be meeting, as you know, at the G20 in Japan. And that'll be, I think, probably a very fruitful meeting. But we're taking in right now hundreds of billions of dollars. We're taking in billions of dollars of tariffs. That there has never been anybody that's been so tough on Russia, but at the same time, we're going to end up getting along with Russia. It makes sense to get along with Russia. Nobody sanctioned Russia like I have.
The trial begins for police officer in Eric Garner's case in New York. Gwen Carr, the mother of Eric Garner, an unarmed black man who died during an encounter with New York police in July 2014, was speaking as a disciplinary trial got underway for the officer accused of using a banned chokehold on Garner.
It's been 5 years. 5 years we've been on the front line trying to get justice, and they're still trying to sweep it under the rug. We need all the officers who killed my son that day. We all seen the video. We all sit and watch him being murdered. Not nationally, but worldwide. We've seen this. And they're still playing games. They was trying to cancel this trial right up to the very moment.
Pantaleo is not the only one on trial. The City of New York Police Department is on trial. Will you allow someone to stay within the police ranks that is on film choking a man, and it has been stated that caused his death? That's the only question left. They thought they would run the clock. We're still here, we'll be here, and again, the NYPD is on trial.
Half store, half museum, Apple's new location in the U.S. Capitol within a historic landmark is being described as the most ambitious project for its retail operations. The project, launched in 2015, entailed a meticulous restoration of the marble facade 1903 building, originally designed as a public library and paid for by industrialist Andrew Carnegie, who died in 1919. Apple funded the renovation and will use one of the 3 floors for its retail store and education programs, with the remainder dedicated to local historical exhibits.
Apple development team leader Mike Brown said, quote, "This is really our gift to the city. We've looked around D.C. for a long time for a location that was worthy of our nation's capital." Apple declined to reveal how much was spent on the renovation, which was reported to cost more than $30 million. Brown said the project was the most ambitious for the iPhone maker because of the size of the building, some 6,000 square meters or 64,000 square feet, and its historical significance. Located in the city's Mount Vernon Square, the building will reopen with a research library, 3 galleries, and a museum store owned and operated by the Historical Society of Washington. Apple Chief Design Officer Joni Ive said in a statement, he loves the synergy between old and new, the juxtaposition of the historic fabric and contemporary design. Apple worked with conservation experts to preserve the historic facade, adding new elements of original Vermont marble and restored 20th century design elements in the interior space. Chris Braithwaite, head of Apple Retail and Design, said, "We have a tremendous amount of respect for the history and the original intention of this building." According to Brown, Apple sought to avoid commercial promotion, with the only elements too modest-sized and removable corporate logos on the facade. Stefan Behling, one of the architects on the project with the London firm Foster & Partners, said Apple sought to maintain the character of the original design in the renovation.
I think it is almost one of the greatest challenges to be part of a building's journey for, let's say, for a few years. These buildings might last hundreds of years. So as you are involved with a building, you have to do something which is very respectful with the old building, but on the other hand, give the building, help the building to go through the next phase of its life.
The Dutch territory of Curaçao said Saturday it would do what it was needed to prevent measles from spreading from a Scientology cruise ship after a cruise member came down with the disease. The free winds, which left the Caribbean island of St. Lucia on Friday, arrived back at its home port of Curaçao on Saturday. According to St. Lucia authorities, there were about 300 people aboard on the ship.
The Curaçao government said it would take all necessary precautions to handle the case of measles on board the Free Winds, including vaccinations. It said in a statement, an investigation will also be done to determine who will be allowed to leave the ship without posing a threat to the population of Curaçao. The vessel is moored in an area not accessible to the public. Quoting its correspondent in Curaçao, Dutch broadcaster NOS said 3 health officials had gone aboard to examine passengers. The reporter told NOS anyone who could prove they had been vaccinated or who had contracted measles in the past would be allowed to leave the ship, while the others would have to stay on board. The Curaçao government said it is imperative to make all efforts to prevent a spread of this disease internationally. It said the risk of the disease spreading was relatively low, as many people had already been vaccinated in the past, but advised parents to make sure their children were vaccinated. The Church of Scientology says the 440-foot or 134-meter vessel is used for religious retreats and is normally based in Curaçao. The vessel had arrived in St. Lucia from Curaçao on Tuesday when it was placed under quarantine by health authorities because of a measles patient, said to be a female crew member. The resurgence of the once eradicated, highly contagious disease is linked to the growing anti-vaccine movement in richer nations, which the World Health Organization has identified as a major global health threat.
We don't have an outbreak of measles in Curaçao. There is no outbreak as such of measles on the boat. There's nobody in the boat that did anything wrong. Somebody came from Europe and after a couple of days had the sniffles and was isolated and turned out to have measles. And we're trying to contain, because if you allow people to go off the ship and into a plane, and maybe they're communicable, they're infectious when they're on the plane, then of course you run a risk of exporting the disease all over the place. So our obligation is to try to limit the spread of the disease as much as possible.
Yes, definitely we are. As a parent, I am. Not only because we have a lot of people coming into Curaçao, but also because we are preparing to go to the United States in a few weeks. So we just want to know if everything is okay, if we can travel. We are traveling with 30 kids to the United States, and we just want to know if it's okay to travel to them.
Should I be? I don't know. I'm not that concerned because we have a very good vaccination program on the island, and everybody has to oblige to the vaccination program. So I'm not really concerned.
When we come back, the Republic of Palau hosts its largest U.S. military exercise in 3 decades. Eagle News, Washington, D.C. will return shortly.
Letters and Music, Lunes hanggang Biyernes, 1:00 hanggang 2:00 ng hapon.
This is Eagle News, Washington, D.C., and I am Jennifer Polantan. Through economic and military assistance, the U.S. is required to uphold its compact or agreement of free association with Western Pacific nations like the Republic of Marshall Islands, the Federated States of Micronesia, and the Republic of Palau. Eagle News correspondent Francesca Joy Moran gives us a recap of a U.S. military exercise that recently took place in her part of the world. Take a look.
It shows a good relationship we have with the United States of America, where they honor their part of the COFA agreement, and their presence is just to strengthen this relationship.
Upon arrival at Koror's International Airport, soldiers from the U.S. Army demonstrated how to secure an airfield with the collaboration of the Palauan security forces. This was the first of many training events during Exercise Palau, which served as a demonstration of America's commitment to the long-term security of Palau as outlined in the Compact of Free Association, or COFA, between the two governments. Both nations also trained and exchanged ideas in several areas, such as law enforcement and border security. A veterinarian outreach program also took place at the Palau Animal Welfare Society, or PAWS, in Koror. There, U.S. Army veterinarians and PAWS counterparts partnered to aid the community in providing basic animal health care for pets. Other American personnel visit the school to provide free assistance, as well as to teach the children about the importance of staying healthy.
Because Palau has quite a few doctors on island, and we don't have a lot of specialties in terms of, we have limited services, like we only have a few dentists, and so I think for the Army to bring additional services to the island, it gives the community members access to more, more unlimited or more services beyond what we can offer on the island, and so it also gives us, teaches us innovative ways to teach the community members to take care of their health.
Many of the local residents the Eagle News spoke reacted positively to this recent U.S. presence. Others had mixed opinions but declined to be interviewed.
My reaction is reassurance and confidence that if anything should happen in the world, our safety will be part of the United States strategy in keeping the region safe.
Exercise Palau was under the U.S. Army's Pacific Pathways concept, which aim at strengthening relationships and help to ensure that Palau and other island nations build sustainable, resilient, and inclusive economic growth. Reporting from Koror, Palau, this is Francesca Joy Miran, 125.
Thanks, Francesca. That is today's Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Join us tomorrow for stories that matter to you. Visit our websites at eaglenews.ph and eaglenewslive.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/eaglenewsph. Thank you for watching. I am Jennifer Politan, and I am 1 with 25.